Welcome back. If you just joined us, our guest on this episode of Question Time is the National Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu. Don't go away. Let's also look at the deployment of military resurfacing in these elections against court order. Would you see that as contempt of court?
But I think, Benga, in this case, you are asking the wrong person the right question. I am not responsible for the deployment of security. What I know is that the police provides election security, is the frontline agency for security during elections. But where need be, on the basis of expediency, the police may invite the military. So on the involvement or not involvement of the military, I think the question should be channeled to the right quarters.
Now let's look at INEC in the days ahead. You have Edo elections coming up in September, the Ondo elections in October ending, next year Anambra, and also in 2018 you have Ekiti and Osun elections. How prepared is INEC for this?
No, INEC is prepared for the elections. We have already issued the timetable for the two natural end of tenure elections holding this year in Edo in early September and Ondo towards the end of October, I think October 20th. We are prepared for these elections because they are known. We know that we are going to conduct these elections and they will come. And we have learned lessons from the election that we have conducted so far to enable us prepare more. And the good thing is that all the rerun elections we are conducting will end by the middle of April. And so we have at least 5 months to the next governorship election. And so we have time to prepare. As I said, we have already issued the timetable and the program for the election in Edo and Ondo. Now what we need to do, before you go on, Benga, what we need to do is to look at some of our guidelines. Because some of our guidelines are actually responsible for the inconclusiveness of elections. Not the Electoral Act, not the constitutional provision. And the decision was taken in good faith. Take, for instance, the controversial margin of victory and margin of cancellations. Our guidelines say that if the margin of cancellation is higher than the margin of lead by the leading candidate in an election, INEC should organize a supplementary election to enable voters in places where the election was either disrupted or couldn't hold for a variety of reasons to determine who becomes their leader. It's a very good thing. What we have noticed in some of the elections we conducted, that some politicians were more interested in the inconclusiveness of the elections than the conclusiveness of the elections. In the past, politicians will disrupt elections where they were not strong. But we have also seen trend that we need to arrest, of politicians organizing disruptions even where they are strong, so that the election will be inconclusive. We'll address those challenges. Only that, sometimes we have, if I may use computer language, a default position in this country. You take a step, and then that step becomes the next problem you are going to deal with. But we are going to address those areas arising from the experiences of what we have done so far in going forward.
I want you to comment on the report that says INEC is about to be unbundled. Is INEC about to be unbundled?
As chairman of INEC, I'm not aware that INEC is going to be unbundled. And I don't know what the meaning of unbundling INEC is. Certainly it didn't come from the commission, or it didn't come from a serious official of the commission. Certainly I am not, as chairman, aware of any plan to unbundle INEC. And I can tell you that if there is any such plan to effect changes to that in that direction, this will be in full consultation with all the stakeholders.
Let's come back to the Rivers State elections. Following the death of the NYC core member, the DG of NYC has raised the need to review the Memorandum of Understanding and the rules of engaging the NYC core members. What's your position on this?
Well, I was there. Interestingly, he made the remarks when we paid him a condolence visit following the unfortunate death of a youth corps member on election duty, and the late Okonta Samuel, may his soul rest in peace. Yes, all these instruments that govern relationship between institutions are periodically reviewed. We have periodically reviewed the Memorandum of Understanding between INEC and the National Union of Road Transport Workers. So it's not out of place for this kind of matters or this kind of issues to be reviewed periodically. So we are waiting for the NYSC to tell us precisely what areas they would like us to review, but we are assured and reassured that the NYSC remains a partner to the Electoral Commission in the conduct of elections. And as I said on that occasion, the pool of the youth corps are our most reliable, most patriotic, most passionate election duty staff ever in this country. I can't envisage an election in Nigeria without the participation of the NYSC. My heart goes out to the NYSC and to the family of the late Okonta Samuel, but we'll wait and see what review the NYSC proposes to the Memorandum of Understanding, and we'll take it up from there.
So far, can you possibly rule out the influence of federal might in the conduct of the elections that you have conducted so far?
I'm not aware that there is any federal might. For me, as chairman of INEC, I was under no influence from any quarters at all. And none of my staff was under any overbearing influence from anybody to do the wrong thing. And you can see from the pattern of the results that is actually a fair reflection of what transpired in the areas where elections were conducted and concluded. We were under no influence from any quarters to do anything untoward. That one I wish to assure you and reassure Nigerians.
Now to Imo State. Is INEC running out of time in the conduct of these rerun elections?
There are 4 constituencies where INEC scheduled rerun elections on Saturday, February 20th, but we are prevented from deploying. In fact, our staff were held hostage. On security advice, we countermanded the election. The election was actually suspended. Now, on security advice, we'll go back and rerun the elections in these 4 constituencies, but we need to be reassured. On the issue of time frame for the election, yes, I agree that the appeal court that finally confirmed the nullification of the elections by the tribunals gave us a 90-day time frame. And the 90-day time frame has either run out or is about to run out. But we are fortified by the provision of Section 26 of the Electoral Act that in the event of insecurity or natural disaster, INEC can suspend the election. And we told the country that the election in Imo was not suspended for any other reason than security, because the security agencies advised us. Once we consult with the stakeholders and consult with the security agencies, we'll fix a date and go back and conduct the elections in Imo. I sent a team from the headquarters to Imo to investigate what happened. A report has been submitted, an interim report. Tomorrow, Thursday, we are going to consider the main report of the committee. And thereafter, we'll consult the stakeholders and consult the security agencies before we fix a date. But the elections in Imo were suspended on security grounds, and it's not suspended forever. Once the security situation improves on the advice of the security agencies, we'll go and conduct elections in the state. We wouldn't like to conduct elections in an atmosphere of rancor. We wouldn't like to conduct elections in which Nigerians lose their lives. We wouldn't like to conduct elections just for the sake of conducting elections. So we need to be reassured that the security in the state is of such moment that we can organize free and fair elections before we deploy. But we are going back to Imo. It's not that we're not going back at all.
Before we wind down this conversation, one quick one here. The challenge of building democratic institutions to many of this generation is fast becoming an elusive dream. What should be the way forward?
Well, the way forward for me is that building our democracy is everybody's business. To begin with, you cannot have democracy without Democrats. There must be Democrats. The electoral umpire can only do so much. It is everybody's responsibility to support and nurture this democracy. It is the responsibility of the civil society organizations, responsibility of religious and community leaders, responsibility most especially of the political actors to play by the rules of the game. It's not power by all means and for its own sake. It is their responsibility also to develop programs and policies that will attract support and genuine vote, our responsibility is to come in at the umpire to ensure that people vote according to what the politicians or the political actors offer. So it is everybody's responsibility to ensure that our democracy works. The umpire will play his part, you in the media should play your part, and all others should play their own parts. That's the way forward.
Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, thank you very much for making our time to be part of this episode of Question Time, and also for letting us know your resilience, determination, and commitment in building democratic institutions in Nigeria and indeed Africa in general. We can only wish you the best of luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Benga. My pleasure. Thank you.
And that's it on this episode of Question Time. You may also send us your comments on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Join us next week on another exciting episode of the show on Channels Television. Many thanks for watching. I'm Benga Ashiru saying goodbye.